Hello everyone, and welcome to this tutorial outlining what UV space is and how to edit that UV space, also known as UV mapping, which is what we need on three-dimensional objects so that they can display bitmaps correctly. So this is what we're aiming to produce, which is of course a Minecraft style cube, very simple texture. Yeah, so let's get there. So just going to reset max, so we start from scratch. Always, of course, get your units set up correctly first. Customize menu, units. Mine's already set up centimeters. Change that. This is the display unit scale. Also remember to check the system unit scale, the underlining scale. Go OK. OK. We need to make a box. Just going to use the Create tab of the Command panel here. Standard geometry primitives. All these primitives come with mapping coordinates by default, left-clicking and dragging one out in the perspective view. I want to be precise though and make this a meter cube, so 100, hit tab, type 100 again, tab, 100. Tab takes me straight from window to window. I don't need to have to click in there with my mouse. Also put the object you've made on the origin as soon as you've made it, so you do that by using select and move, right-clicking down here at the bottom on the spinners for the X, Y, Z coordinates. Now it is definitely on the origin. Name your object. I'm going to call it mapping example. And I need to make a material to see what my mapping coordinates are going to be doing. So material editor, this comes up. I'm going to call this cube map, no, material, cube material. Drag it onto the object, and I need to get a diffuse map. I have one prepared. When you click in the little empty chip next to the diffuse in the standard material, you get this rollout here. Choose bitmap. I can double click. I'm prompted to find a bitmap. Here's the one I want to use. This is it. If I quickly show you it in Photoshop, it says texture sheet I've made, which is 1K resolution, 1024 by 1024 pixels, with what looks to be like a sort of cardboard box, or in this case a Minecraft box, that's been unwrapped. And this is really the principle of the whole paradigm, really, for wrapping two-dimensional space, in other words bitmap space, just pixels around a 3D object. And go back to max, get a preview here. Yes, that's the one I want. Go open. It loads it into the preview window here. The interface changes to reflect the different level we're at. We want to go back up a level to see that we've got M now populating our slot for diffuse. We can see what it is here, but of course it's not being shown in the viewport. We need to hit one more button, which is this one. Look at the tooltip. It says show shaded material in viewport. Click on that and it turns up. Little tip here: if you change this self-illumination value just while you're working on your mapping coordinates, you can sort of eliminate the lighting that is on the object, which can be useful. It can be a bit distracting to have, semi-realistic lighting on an object, just while you're concerned with getting the bitmap straight. So we're done with our material. As we can see with this default primitive object, it's mapping the whole of that bitmap onto each and every side. We need to modify this, so I go to the Command panel, the Modify tab. It's still a primitive of a box. I can right-click here, change it to an editable poly, or do the same kind of thing, right-clicking down here with it selected, convert to editable poly. Now I can begin editing it, and to edit specifically the mapping coordinates, I need a special modifier. From the modifier list, it's alphabetical. I need to go down to U, and it is unwrap UVW. The edges turn green because if we look at the mapping coordinates in 2D space, UV space, by clicking on this button, Open UV Editor, we get this interface here, which I'll make slightly bigger, which has an area with checkers in, some more of these green lines all around the outside. Just turn off the checkers for a moment. In here, this is essentially a graph with U coordinates along the bottom, V coordinates along the left hand side, and this wraps around, it tiles sort of infinitely in all directions, but between 0 and 1 in that direction and 0 and 1 in this direction, we have this space here, and it's common to arrange all your mapping coordinates within this space here, which is why we have these major lines indicated. Now we're in the have sub-object mode here for selecting elements. We're set to vertex by default, which means I can select the dots here, and look, this one's been highlighted over here. It's a little small, hope you can see that. If I switch to edge, I can select an edge, I can click here in the 3D view, or directly in here, and I get the selection over there. So clicking on a face, a quad rather, I can look around and see that I've actually managed to get the bottom. Now as you can see, they're all jumbled on top of one another. If I pull these out now, you'll probably get an idea what's going on. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, excuse me, I've got a cold at the moment, 6 faces or quads on the cube. Now I want to arrange these in a sensible way, scale them down so that, you know, this cross pattern wraps around the whole of my cube. So in order to help me do that, it would be very good to be able to see this texture map in here. Now luckily, when you load it in as a material, it should be available in this drop down list. Now by default the checker pattern is available. If I click again on the checker pattern, you can see that I get a preview of the checkers on my object. That's very useful. It can show me, you know, that there's no stretching going on and that the pixels are evenly distributed. But I actually want to be more specific, go back to my Cube T page and click on this again, and it will be displayed here. So that's using this button in combination with the drop down list. So now I want my top to be here, right in the middle in this area. So what I'm going to do is keep them this size initially, and then let me see in the front viewport, because say this is the front viewport here, so this is the front of my cube. I think I'll have that here. So if like looking at it from above south, I think I'll have as my front. So this bit here I think needs to go to the left hand side, if you follow me hopefully. Yep. So that's there. So this side, this one needs to go up here. Around there is this one, and it needs to go there. So I think the bottom one is going to be, yes, this one here. I've done it very roughly, very quickly, just really to show you the principle. I'm just going to make it slightly more accurate, slightly less rough and ready. And in future videos I will show you how to weld these together so that it's not all separate objects, because of course some of these edges could be joined together. So now I've got an echo of the cross arrangement, but it's all too big. So if I now grab them all by clicking over the whole lot, now I have transform tools up here, which is sort of like the transform tools you have in 3D space, but these of course are for the 2D space you have for U and V and W texture space. So this one is for scale. With them all selected, I'm just going to drag downwards and scale them down to approximately match what's going on in here. Now if I move these into place using the move tool, zoom in a bit so I can see what's happening. Pretty good. I can scale it up a little bit. Let's try not to be too fussy. It is just for an explanation video. We'll go with that. So over here it's a little difficult to see. Hit F2 will toggle on and off this, what are the selected faces. I can see I've got some errors. So some of these faces or quads are rotated 90 degrees. You can't tell with the top and the bottom, so that doesn't really matter. But this one, for example, which happens to be this one here, needs to be rotated 90 degrees. I have the facility over here in this viewport to rotate 90 degrees. Click on it once. Doesn't appear to be any change here. Of course, if it's spinning from the middle 90 degrees, you wouldn't really register any movement. Over here, nothing seems to have happened, but I do know that it may have, but the viewport just hasn't been refreshed. If I just middle click and drag, you can see that it updates the viewport, and I can see the effect of what I've just done over here. Let's click again, and one more time. It shuffles it round, and now that's correct. It's a shame when you have to sort of fiddle with the viewport to provoke it to refresh, but it's easy just to hit the middle mouse button, pan the camera a little bit, and there you go. So the same with this side. Click to select it. Seems to be that one. Rotate. Click twice. Refresh the viewport. That seems to have fixed that. This one here seems to be this face. Click once. Okay, that's fixed that. And we're done. That is it. Now, in other videos, I'll go into a lot more detail as to if you have flipped faces, how to deal with those. But essentially, that is the principle. The green lines represent the outside parts of what we call islands of UV coordinates in 2D space, and that is how you do it. You arrange in 2D space in this editor the pixels that get wrapped around your 3D object. I hope that's clear enough. If not, then just run through the video again and look for more information in more videos in future. Thanks very much for watching.